Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new series. It is I, the omnipotent god of Misery's End and Fragments of Lost Home. My name is Keith. I am the DM. So this series is just gonna be me as a DM talking about like my world, my thoughts, kind of going forward with this campaign. Today specifically on this episode, I did want to talk more about my world because I realized no one really knows anything about this homebrew world that I made, apart from like my players, and they only know some of the stuff. So if you are one of my players and you're watching this, careful. Might be some spoilers. But for those of you who might be new to this campaign, this will give you a little bit more insight onto like or into my world and like what I've been building. And yeah, it's a lot. I have been writing every single day for about a year now, and I've been adding on, revising, and trying to make this world coherent and playable, I guess. This is the first time I've ever made a successful homebrew world to play in. I've tried before, didn't really work out. So when I started playing with this group, we started with Call of the Netherdeep. It's one of the Critical Role campaigns. Actually, let me grab the book. This bad boy right here. I don't actually remember who gave this to me. I think it was a gift. I'm not too sure. It just spawned in, and yeah. I was super excited to run this because I love Critical Role. I've watched a little bit of Campaign 1. I've watched all of Campaign 2, Molly Mock. Smash! Got the Critical Role book, and when I started playing with this group, they were kind of in between like games, I guess, or DMs. So I was like, guys, I've always wanted to run a campaign, and be in a group where people want to role play, So they're like, all right, let's give it a go. So we started the Critical Role called the Netherdeep campaign, and I loved it. I enjoyed being the DM for this group, and hopefully the rest of the group enjoyed it. I mean, they stuck around this long, so I assume they enjoyed it. But yeah, we did the Critical Role Call of Netherdeep campaign all the way through. I added a shitload of homebrew stuff, as if you were to, listen to the Misery's End podcast, you should go listen to all of it. The beginning episodes are a bit rough because we were just starting out recording stuff, but we got the hang of it later on. But anyways, I'm repeating myself a lot because I'm so scrambled. I have no script in front of me. I got nothing. I'm just speaking out my ass. I added a whole bunch of homebrew stuff to the Critical Role campaign. The one big thing, and this ties into this new campaign that I've been running, this homebrew world, Ruidus, which is a big thing in the Critical Role world of Exandria. Ruidus is like some weird alien moon. It's red, and it doesn't give you a ton of information in this book. So I'm like, that's kind of good for me because I like adding stuff. I like homebrewing stuff. It's a lot of fun. So Vesper from Misery's End, their whole character was like, I was born under a dark star. Like the original thought was born under a dark star and I was cursed. And I'm like, okay, well, we can work with that. What if you were born under Ruidus? Because in this book, being born under Ruidus means you're cursed. And so we went with that idea. And I went a little bit further. I went deep into this shit. I'm like, what if this weird red alien moon had a fucking alien in it? And I went hog fucking wild with this idea. So I created this whole new reality, this whole new universe, this new race of creatures, and I implemented it into this game, and it became one of the like vital points of this campaign. I tied it into like the end boss, the end goal, everything. This creature in Root, I assure you this all ties in with the campaign that I'm running now. We will get into that, but I gotta run through my own fucking thoughts first. This alien creature is called Vasilius. It is, as I call it, the Architect. This creature is from a species from a different reality. They're these like cosmic Lovecraftian Cthulhu type beings that strive for perfection. They in their own universe, they have tried to make something that is perfect. And as we all know as human beings, perfect doesn't exist. Like, it's not a thing that can happen. Like, something that is perfect is like an impossible goal, right? Or at least in my mind, that's what these creatures were trying to achieve, perfection, and they couldn't. And during the process of trying to make perfection, they destroyed their own reality. And the only creature able to escape through creating a tear in the fabric of reality was Vasilius. Vasilius is from a race that is now extinct. They are gone. Their entire reality destroyed. So he left through this tear in a fabric of reality and landed in the world of Exandria, or in this in the Critical Role universe. When he arrived, the gods of this world saw him as an alien threat, because he is. And the only person, or the only god able to stop him, was a homebrew god that I made that ties in with the character Leviathan, called the Fated Future. This god is the god of the future. They know what's going to happen. They're, or not the god of the future, god of fate. This god was the only one who knew how to stop Vasilius. He knew it was going to happen. And so there's a little bit of the story in Misery Zen, like the podcast, the story that we went through. We only touched on it a little bit. And that was because throughout the campaign, we were supposed to come upon more artifacts that would allude to more of the Fated Future story and Vasilius, but we never got to that, which is okay, because I have a plan for a campaign 3 where we go fucking back, dude. We go back to Exandria in a broken world, and we do all this shit with the Fated Future and Vasilius and like getting the world back. I got so many ideas, dude. It's crazy. Anyways, we're getting off topic here. The Fated Future knew how to stop Vasilius, and he did. Essentially what he did is he sacrificed himself to rally the prime deities and betrayer gods to stop Vasilius. And how they stopped Vasilius was trapping him in Ruidus. Ruidus is a prison, a massive cosmic fucking moon prison. They slammed Vasilius in there, and Ruidus drained Vasilius's power. So that's why he can curse people, because the very, very, very limited power that he has is able to influence very specific people who are born under his light. That's the only way he has any sort of power. And these cursed people can or have become branded. The whole branded thing, again, if you were to listen to or watch the Misery Zen podcast, there's a bit more to it. But people who are cursed can also become branded. Branded people are ones who are cursed, born under Ruidus, and then offer themselves to Vasilius. They become like a vessel. So he can siphon power off of branded people in hopes of one day becoming powerful enough to escape Ruidus. Vesper did become branded because they wanted power, and Vasilius offered them power. So I won't tell you the whole entire story of Misery's End. So skipping forward, Ambition, another main antagonist in the Call of the Netherdeep campaign, his goal was to release Elixion, which is the main point of Critical Role, is to, in this whole campaign, your players have to reclaim this amulet and restore its power, and then find Elixion, this demigod that saved Exandria during the time of the calamity, and basically either cleanse his soul or kill him, because there's a whole mess of shit with Elixion. He's a demigod that saved Exandria in the calamity. I didn't really focus too much on that, even though that was the whole point of this campaign. I wanted to focus it more on Vasilius, because I came up with the idea of, if Misery's End got the bad ending, which, spoilers, they did, campaign 2 takes place in Vasilius's own creation. And again, we'll get to that in just a bit. Let me continue on and get through my thoughts. My God, I am so scatterbrained. I apologize. But this is how I work, and this is how I write. So, like, this is more insight to my own brain than anything else. So, Okay, Ambition is a vessel for Vasilius, and in the end, he is killed by Kagura. But Misery's End still has to go through the entire Netherdeep, which is this massive underwater dungeon, right? They finally get to Elixion, and in this state, Elixion is not possessed, but kind of controlled by Vasilius in a way. All of the ruidium and the corruption is caused because Vasilius has a grasp over Elixion's mind. And so, the worst ending in this book, how they can achieve getting the worst ending, is if they enter the chamber where Elixion is held, and when he asks, "Can I leave?" if they just outright say, "Yes, you can leave," Elixion gets the worst ending. Or the campaign gets the worst ending. And the whole thing is, in this campaign, and it was a little bit foggy, even though I read through this so many different times, I had planned it all out, it was still weird to me that you can skip a lot of the dungeon and get to Elixion and not understand how he functions. Elixion and the Netherdeep is built because Elixion's mind is corrupted by nightmares of his own creation. So without like Vasilius and Homebrew stuff, Elixion's mind is poisoned by his own thoughts because no one has come to save him, even though he's saved Exandria. So when he saved Exandria, he was thrusted down into this extraplanar dimension or something like that, and he was trapped in darkness. And through that, his mind kind of like went berserk, and he created the Netherdeep, which is, again, this massive underwater dungeon filled with disgusting, nasty creatures and shit. When the players get to Elixion, they go through all these things which show Elixion's past and kind of his feelings. And so if they were to go through the entire dungeon and I did a better job, they would have seen that Elixion was tormented and that they need to be a therapist to him for like throughout a fight. Basically, they fight Elixion and they have to like cleanse his soul and tell him like, hey, what you did wasn't your fault, you know, we're here to save you now, you did good by saving Exandria, yada yada, all this stuff. But when my players got to Elixion, they were like, yep, you're free to go, just outright. And so I'm like, wonderful, worst ending, here we fucking go. When they released Elixion, the worst ending, in the book, it is written, ruin is coming to Exandria if they get the worst ending. Exandria is becoming fucked now because Elixion it becomes this weird, devastating god that just rampages through Exandria and destroys everything. So you can continue playing in this world and you can create your own shit of how Elixion like destroys Exandria, whatever. But in my homebrew shit, what I did is Vasilius basically takes over Elixion. Elixion becomes this vessel for Vasilius, and Elixion now just gives all of his power to Vasilius. So a demigod who has a ton of fucking power. He was blessed by 3 other gods. He just gave all of his power to Vasilius because his mind was so corrupted that when he was freed and the worst ending happened, Vasilius just plucked him, and now Vasilius has all this power. So the final boss was essentially like the avatar of Vasilius. It was this black, oily, tentacly creature that spawned in and created a black hole to destroy Exandria and Ruidus and allow Vasilius to escape this reality. That's, in the most basic way, what I had planned. When Vasilius escapes Exandria, his first thing to do was find a way to get back through that terror in the fabric of reality, which he initially created to get to, or to get away from his home. And when he came into Exandria, he wanted to use that tear in the fabric of reality to use it as a portal to get to other realities and find his home. This is how we get into campaign 2. We're finally there. I had to get through a whole bunch of shit, but we're here now. This is campaign 2, Fragments of the Lost Home, my homebrew world that I have been working on for over a year now. It started out with a map. I knew I wanted to do a second campaign with this group. I knew I wanted it to be Vasilius's creation. Even if they got a good ending, I wanted this to be like something where Vasilius would escape, would be able to leave, this, despite either getting like the good ending or bad ending. I didn't really know how I was going to plan it if they got the good ending, but campaign 2 was to be set in a creation of either Vasilius or one of his kind, I guess. But they did get the worst ending, so there was so much stuff that I could do with that. Even though they did get the bad ending, it wasn't the end, I guess. Because Campaign 2 is technically a sequel to Misery's End, in a way. So, now we can get into my homebrew world, everything I've created, and I get to spill my guts, my heart, and everything to you guys, because this has been my major project. If you don't know anything about me, which I assume you don't, for the longest time, I've always been wanting to be a content creator, a YouTuber, streamer, whatever. It's just never worked out for me because I do have a full-time job. I do have other things that I do, and my mental health does get to me sometimes. So it's hard to stay on track and to keep things going long-term. But I've always loved content creation. I've always loved creating stuff, and I've always loved writing. So writing this D&D campaign just felt so natural to me, and I loved every moment of it. So like I said, for the past year, I've been writing, I've been creating maps, I've been creating this world, I've been creating races and plots and villains and character development for this group now. It's so much. And as of right now, it's a bit hard for me to write more because there's so much, and I don't know what to do going forward. Let me start from the beginning of this world and how I created it and where it's at now and what's kind of in it. I'm gonna put this, we don't need that anymore. This campaign, Exandria, done. For now, until we get to campaign 3, but that's a long ways away. Okay. Campaign 2. Fragments of a Lost Home. What we currently stopped at, please, thank you. Where we currently are now. This all started with a map. I was home one day and I was just like, I want to create a map. I want to see what I can do. So I rolled some dice on a piece of paper, wrote out a map, and I'm like, that's cool. I have some stuff. And then I started creating names for towns and cities and had some ideas of what I wanted to do. I don't even think I have the original paper with me. But I have the original idea for Scathyn, and I'll put up references and stuff. I have a whole PowerPoint that I showed my players, so I'll put up pictures and whatnot. But Scathyn, here we go. There's the map. This is Scathyn, the Riftlands. So I have a ton of ideas going forward with this campaign. So far, I really only have Scathyn made. This is the continent that the Campaign 2 is taking place on. We are currently in the Riftlands, and as of right now, in the current episode 14, we are in Anamnesis. Now, the original idea behind Anamnesis is that it was this big fucking city. We're talking, as you can see on the map, each hexagon, or is that a hexagon? I think so. Each of those hexagons are 60 miles. This is a continent-wide scale map. So each hexagon is 60 miles, and as you can see in Anamnesis, all around that big fucking crater is just city. And so I thought it was going to be really ambitious, but I could do it. I could make a massive city where each hexagon is 60 miles worth of city. And I realized going forward, that's really hard for one person to do. I'm not that big brain. So I did downscale it by a lot, but then I did come up with the idea of having city-states. So there are multiple towns within Anamnesis in each city-state. So right now we're in the city-state of Lothmanger, which is the magical region of Anamnesis. But in this region, there are a lot of different areas where there are a lot of different anomalies caused by the rift. The idea behind Anamnesis, big, huge city, but I had to downscale it because I just could not do it. I could, but I chose not to because that's a lot. That's a lot for one dude to handle. And I don't have the time to do it. So yeah, anyways, downscaled it, and that's where we currently are. But yeah, this all started out with me just throwing dice on a piece of paper, and this is the general I design that I came up with. I have the different like prototypes and rough drafts of Scathyn before it came to this, which I do consider to be my final draft of Scathyn as of right now. I guess there are a lot more cities and towns. I just didn't put them in there because I'm like, we won't really get to those in this campaign. What I have here are the main places that my players will get to in this campaign. This is where the Rift is. Now, the Rift is the center point of this campaign. This is the big thing. Like I said before, Vasilius comes through a tear in the fabric of reality. It is called the Rift. And in this world, it's the main point of this campaign is around the Rift. Now, if you have seen or heard or listened to a few of these episodes, you know of the Vesiculums. The Vesiculums are pieces of the Rift that were scattered all throughout Scathan after a big fucking rift storm. So I'll get to more details in those later, but again, that's the main point of this campaign. The idea of this whole campaign, and again, this is spoilers, so go forward a little bit. I'll put it down when I'm done talking about it. The point of this campaign, how it's gonna progress and end, is the players are gonna collect these Vesiculums, right? They're gonna meet the villain. The villain's gonna threaten all of Scathan. They're gonna destroy or stop the villain from doing that. Hopefully, we don't know. Maybe they'll fail. But if they succeed, they're gonna meet the players of Misery's End. Misery's End are here in Scathan, all scattered throughout the continent. But they are going to meet the players one by one, and they're going to have to solve some things going on with Misery's End. Each one kind of has or is a part of some major conflict of Scathan. And so once they resolve these conflicts, they will obtain each member of Misery's End until it gets to the very end. Once they collect all of Misery's End's character and resolved all of their conflicts, they're going to bring them back to the Rift, because at this point, once they get all of Misery's End, they're going to have a larger collection of Vesiculums. And once they get to the Rift, they bring back all the Vesiculums to the Rift. They fix it. The Rift opens up. Vasilius comes back. They fight Vasilius, and they send Misery's End home. That is the ultimate goal of this campaign. That was the main thought process of this, is these players are going to find out a lot more about this world through the Vesiculums and through the Rift and through just exploring this world. They're going to find out there's a lot more to Scathan. There's a lot more to the Riftlands. There's a lot more to Ethos, the entire world, the Biosphere that I call it. And we'll get into more about that later, because there's a reason why I call it the Biosphere and not a world, because I got ideas. I'll tell you in a little bit. Grab Vesiculums, fight villain, meet Misery's End characters, obtain all Misery's End characters and Vesiculums, return to Rift, fight Vasilius, return Misery's End home back to Exandria. Thus starts campaign 3. That's my idea. That's the ultimate goal. It might go haywire depending on what they do, but that's what I have planned so far. That is the book that I'm trying to write. This whole campaign book that I'm trying to write while we play through will follow this, order. So yeah, that's what I have planned for campaign 2. Now that I've kind of covered the, I say basics, but that was a lot I just said. That was a ton I just said. But again, this is how my brain works. This is how I explain things. And so, yeah. So that's the main thing about Scathyn, the basic overview of how Misery's End ties into this campaign, how Vasilius ties into this campaign, because Vasilius in this world is a cosmic deity that people kind of worship. We'll get into that in just a second. I have a whole history written out for this. I have a whole pantheon of gods. I've created 36 gods, plus a few more like lesser deities. But 36 gods I've written, and I love each one. And I know that's a lot. That's a lot of gods. You don't need 36 gods. You don't need 36 gods. But I do. I do. You want to know why? Because every single god in this world has a very specific and particular purpose. This world runs like a machine. And we'll get more into that. But this world is a machine. Spoilers. Again. It's a machine. This world was built by Vasilius to activate this rift, this portal, he needs energy to power this rift, and it's a tear in the fabric of reality. It's impossible to comprehend how something could power a tear in the fabric of reality. So I came up with my own thing, and we'll get to that actually right now. We're gonna stop talking about this. I'm gonna stop rambling, and we're gonna start talking about like the history of this world and how it works. I'm gonna reiterate: the rift is the centerpiece of Ethos. Ethos is the name of this biosphere. It is where we are playing. It is what holds Scathyn, the continent. Okay, going forward, the rift. What is it? Tear in the fabric of reality. Already covered that. The biosphere, Ethos, is built around the rift. Vasilius specifically built Ethos around the rift. There are 3 temples that were made by the blooming gods. The blooming gods are the 3 original gods that Vasilius created to like micromanage Ethos. So these 3 temples power the rift by harvesting life energy. Life energy is just the biosphere. The mortals on it, just everything. The entire world is a machine that harvests, or not harvests, creates life energy. These temples made by Vasilius's blooming gods harvest that life energy. Once these temples are full, kind of think of it like a battery. Once this battery is full, discharges, opens the rift. At least that's how I think of it. However, this whole machine is not perfected. Vasilius knows this. I know this. Rift storms. That's the next thing we're going to cover. What are rift storms? Rift storms are powerful destructive storms that originate from the rift. They are thick, billowing, iridescent clouds that pour out of the rift, can spread all across Scathyn. These storms release unstable energy from the rift that come in the form of lightning strikes. People who are struck by lightning, or this unstable energy, one of 2 things will happen. 1, you die instantly, you disintegrate. Or 2, you become a Rift Walker. Rift Walker is a homebrew race that I made, which I think is pretty cool. But they're like rare mythical creatures that seek out isolation, and they are created by the rifts or rift storms, so they're considered to be divine creatures, but there's still a lot of mystery tied into them, and I won't talk a lot about them today. But yeah. A lot of the people in this world know that there's a lot of mystery behind them, so they don't really know like what rift walkers are or why they're created or exactly how they're created. They just know if someone gets struck by a rift storm energy, lightning strike, whatever, there's a chance they turn into a rift walker. And so next up, we have the history of Ethos. First off, we have the blooming. This is the very starting point. This is the transition between Misery Zen to Fragments of a Lost Home. These were when the blooming gods were created. So picture this. Oof, just go into that mind palace of yours. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Imagine this. Imagine nothing. Pure black emptiness. Picture the void itself. That is this new reality. Vasilius comes from a already created reality or universe, goes through this tear in the fabric of reality, comes out of the rift, boom, there is fucking nothing. All there is this crack in reality that he can't go back through. He has come into nothing. He has spawned into nothing. So from here, he does have power now. Elixion has gave him enough power to create Ethos and create life. So Vasilius created the 3 blooming gods. These gods are the god of light and the god of the biosphere. From light, though, came darkness. So I guess he only created 2 gods, and then 1 spawned into creation to create balance. And this whole universe that I've created all stems around balance. So Vasilius created god of light, god of the biosphere, Vasilion and Atakun. From light came darkness, so the god of darkness is named Gol. Vasilius recognized this, and thus he tasked each of the blooming gods to create essentially children. I based my god pantheon off the Greek pantheon. So like The gods, I guess, are like all siblings slash like sons and daughters, but like not, I guess, because they're created just like poof magic, you know. But they're technically like all kin, I guess. I'm really bad at explaining things, so I apologize. But I did base it off the Greek pantheon, and that's why things are like, I have a whole a chart of like how each god relates to like one another. Blooming gods are created, and Vasilius tasked each one to manage different things on Ethos. So blooming, this is the beginning of Ethos, the beginning of this reality, beginning of this world. Then we have the harmonizing. This is when the blooming gods' children, so all the other gods that we know of, split into 3 pantheons, each one fighting to maintain balance on Ethos. I'll go over the gods in probably a later episode, because I have 36 of them, and there's a lot to talk about when it comes to these gods. The blooming gods created all these other gods, and they split into 3 pantheons, the dystopian, the utopian, and newtopian gods. So they're not really good, bad, neutral, but kind of. They do represent like good, bad, and neutral things, but they all work towards balance. Like I said, it's a huge mess what I made with the gods, so I'll have to explain that in a separate episode. So, harmonizing. Blooming gods create other gods. These gods went to war. And during this time, Ethos was molded like a sword being forged from hot iron. So the way I thought of this was kind of how Earth was made, where big fucking meteors hit it and it created what we know of like our world today. That's kind of how I thought of it. Like, if these gods all fought, all 36 of these big fucking titan gods fought on this world, it would make what Ethos is now. It would create Scaethyn and the other continents and everything like that. So this lasted for about 1,000 years. This was a 1,000-year war between these gods. And with that, magic was released into the air, and we get Aware, the magic-born god. Again, there's a lot to that. Magic also works way differently in this world. I understand this is probably extremely confusing. I apologize. But yeah, harmonizing, huge war between the gods, molded Ethos into what it is now. So like the mountains, valleys, oceans, all that shit was created because of the harmonizing. So next we have the birth of mortals. This was around year 600 BA before Anamnesis. Now Anamnesis is the point where things go from like before Anamnesis, so like primitive times, to modern D&D time, I guess. So, birth of mortals. Near the end of the harmonizing, the first mortal creatures were created. Tagon created the first mortals, the elves. Elves also work a lot differently in this world. They're massive pricks. But Tagon is the god of life. The rest of the gods made their own versions of mortal creatures, thus the various races, beasts, wildlife, and all manners of creatures were created. So once they saw Tagon make the elves, they're like, I want to do that. And so many of the other gods made their own versions of elves. So in this world, elves are massive pricks because they believe themselves to be superior, which they kind of are in a way. They have long life. They are like actual descendants of Tagon, a god of this world. And all other creatures were just like inferior clones of them, kind of. But each god put their own twist on like the mortal creatures, and so all these different races and like beasts were created. Okay, next we have the first opening of the rift. This was a huge point in time. This is around year 848 BA, again before Anamnesis. So the rift opens up at the center of Ethos. It opens up. It released energy upon the nearby land, so this would be like the first rift storm as well. Those struck by the energy were either destroyed or turned into a rift walker. So this would also be the first time a rift walker was ever recorded being seen or created. At this part as well, Vasilius would descend into Ethos, so every creature on Ethos would see Vasilius for the first time during the first opening of the rift. All other times, Vasilius was just never really present until this opening of the rift. Then we have the second harmonizing. After Vasilius leaves, the gods and their creations gathered around the rift and fought for dominion over it. This is when they realized that the rift is way more important than anything else on Ethos, and so they needed to understand the rift, and in order to do so, they needed to fight for territory. They needed to fight over dominion. So the gods, again, and their creations fought. So it's called the second harmonizing because around the rift was where this war was fought. So it wasn't as large scale as the first harmonizing. However, this was still a very big war, and it was between gods and mortals this time. All of them hoped to understand and gain knowledge of the rift. And this was the point where Scathan then became known as the Riftlands. So Scathyn Riftlands, yeah. Okay, the second harmonizing lasted from 848 to 1077 BA, so roughly 200 years. So, creation of Anamnesis. Second harmonizing comes to the end with the creation of Anamnesis. 8 leaders came together to create the Anamnesis conglomerate, a massive city built around the rift. Now, like I said before, had to downscale Anamnesis, so it still is considered like the big city, but like it's split up into like a lot of towns and like the big capital and stuff like that. So the city was split up into 8 city-states, each one ruled by one of the leaders. Now again, a lot of time has occurred until then, so the leaders have changed. Anamnesis has changed a bit. But yeah, that's the history of Anamnesis and how it's created. Was basically at the end of the second harmonizing, once the war died down and people were like, let's just create our own sections where we can rule so we can study the rift in our own ways. This then brought upon the New Age. So this would be year 1 to year 590 AA after Anamnesis. With the creation of Anamnesis, peace was spread throughout Scathyn and the graded Biosphere. The people on Ethos brought upon a new age of peace, creation, knowledge, and invention. So this was a time where war kind of subsided. It died down. And people were like, okay, now that we have peace, we can focus on studying the rift, examining it, building new inventions to help people progress, in this very new world, right? This world is extremely new, but because of the gods and their tasks and how this world works, people, the mortals, evolved rapidly. And there's, again, because of the gods, there are lots of reasons why, even though this world is new still, or new-ish, people have evolved crazy fast. Silent Reign. This is after the New Age, so year 590 to 690 AA. During this time, Vasilius would return to Ethos through the rift, so this is like the second opening of the rift. When he came back in year 590, he went dormant for a century. This would be the first time since the New Age that people have seen Vasilius. Many new religions, cults, mystics, and scholars came to the Riftlands to see this cosmic entity, this red Cthulhu Lovecraftian being. Also during this time, the reason why it's called the Silent Reign is because the gods went silent during this time, and I'm not going to explain that right now. When we get to the God episode, we will, but there's a reason why the gods went silent during this time, and I mean, I guess you can already figure it out. It's because Vasilius is here, but there's a bit more in-depth stuff. Okay, and then we have the last departure. This is year 690 AA. This was the point where the rift opens once again, and Vasilius goes bye-bye. He leaves. A celebration is held every year on this day. Each city-state holds its own kind of celebration or festival. I when I thought of this idea, I immediately thought of the Purge. Because with like different cults or religions or people in Anamnesis, each city-state, each town, each city is going to have its own way of celebrating Vasilius's departure. Some believe that every year on this day when he left, he's going to come back. So some people hold rituals, not good rituals, very bad rituals, like a sacrifice. People like sacrifice to hopefully bring him back. Some people hold a celebration, hoping that certain celebrations or festivals, think of like Curse of Strahd type of thing, type of festival, where they believe wholeheartedly that if they do this one thing, this one celebration, ritual, whatever, Vasilius will come back. That was my idea about this. So like kind of like the Purge, like if people go in the streets and sacrifice people or do whatever, Vasilius will come back. So everyone kind of has their own idea of what they need to do to bring Vasilius back, because they want this cosmic entity back. They believe it's the creator to this world, which they're right, but like they don't know. The mortals of this world don't know anything about this being apart from that it comes and goes, and it has twice now. Yeah. So now we get to the current day. This is where we are currently playing in time. This is the year 790 AA, so exactly 100 years, a century after Vasilius departed. So, current ethos sees the rise of invention, the spread of war, the fight for balance between gods, and the pursuit of absolute knowledge of the rift. During this time, ethos would also see a rising number of rift walkers, and not just in Scathan, which to the people of Scathan is strange because rift walkers are created by the rift. The rift is in Scathan, so in other continents, in other places, how are rift walkers being created? Big mystery. That's something we'll touch upon way later, but for now, that's something just to keep in the back of your mind. A little mystery to keep things hyped, you know? Yeah. What else? Tension would rise as people believe Vasilius will return after being gone for a century. If you would notice in the history of this place, things tend to happen like a year or a century after a major event, especially with Vasilius, where he comes back for 100 years and then leaves again 100 years later. People believe that he's going to come back. So that is the history that I have written for Ethos. Now, I don't want to go into this today because I've already talked a lot, but I have so many ideas with what I want to do with Ethos and show the wider universe that I've created, because there is Ethos and there are other lands, but not in a way that you would expect. It's I'm excited to talk about it, but just not today, because like I said, this was a lot of just lore vomit and shit. What else do I have to talk about? We talked about Scathyn. We talked about the ties between Misery Zen and this campaign. Talked about the history. I think that'll be okay for today. But I do want to talk about Anamnesis. I do want to talk about the 8 city-states that I've made. I want to talk about the new regions that I've made, the new races. I want to talk about all of that. But today, I think this is good enough just to talk about like the ties between the two campaigns, a little bit of my thoughts going forward, and just how this world kind of works. I gave you very basic details, even though I know this is over 50 goddamn minutes of me just again lore vomiting shit, but like I said, I spent over a year writing every single day, adding more and more and more onto this each day, and there's still a lot to this world where I'm like, I don't know the finer details. I just know like the big picture. So as I continue writing, I am writing those finer details, but I'm more developing it as we play through it, because I don't know where my players are going to take it, even though I do have a main quest that I've set them upon. There's a lot of things they could do, and I'm not only running this campaign, I'm running another campaign as well, set in the same world but in the Laglock Spires, which is like on the opposite side of Scathyn, or like the Riftlands. So in that campaign, it's supposed to be a bit more fun. It's a piratey adventure. I'm having a ton of fun. That group is a blast. But this group, since they do have ties to Misery's End, is the main group I've been focusing on and preparing a lot for. So I think that's it for now. I might have missed a lot of stuff, but this was the very basic overview of what I have for this world. Like I said, I do want to talk about more in-depth details about each region, why it's created like it is, its purpose. I do want to talk about the gods, how they tie into this world, why there are so many, and why they are very specific gods. Like, I have the god of love, god of disease, decay, war, death, knowledge, like all these different type of gods, and there are a lot, but there's a reason for that. What else? There's still so much. The races. I do want to talk about the races. I have Riftwalkers, I have the Kyotin, I have the Musai, and then I have a few other sub races, and then I do have a couple other ones that I've been wanting to create. I just don't know how to do it yet. Like they're still way in development. But yeah, so this was my lore vomit. I hope if you did stick around this long, I hope you enjoyed it. My brain works really strange. I don't even understand it half the time. But when I get excited about an idea, I just fucking go for it, dude. I just start writing. I start like planning shit. I love talking to it about other people. But since most of my friends are the people I'm, with in this campaign, I can't talk to all this stuff to them because I'm like, I want this to come up naturally. I want them to explore the world, and then when they come to some sort of revelation, I can spew all this lore to them, and it'll be mind blow. Because I want that effect. I want that effect more than anything else. I want their minds to be blown. I want them to go, "What the fuck?" That's, as a DM, that's all I want. That's all I want. Well, and I want for them to cry, but I've already done that once, so mission accomplished. So yeah, I am big on just wanting what the fuck moments. So that's why I try to keep all this contained and not say anything to my players. But for you guys, I can say whatever I want in terms of D&D. But yeah. Hope you enjoyed it. I do plan on making more of these because I have so much more to talk about going forward as well. After I get through talking about this world, how it works, I do want to talk about my plans going forward and hopefully get your guys' input in this. I do want help with this, and that's another reason why I'm making these videos. I do want people to come into our Discord to just help me out with, creating items, villains, different plot hooks, stuff like that, twists, just things to help me develop this world, because doing it alone, it's fun because, no one else kind of like impedes, but also I do kind of want a little bit of criticism. I want a new set of eyes on this world. I want someone to be like, well, what about this? And kind of contest my thoughts a little bit to make it better. I strive to make this world better. I strive to make this the best campaign that my players have been a part of, but it's so hard for just me alone to do. So I am looking for help. And again, if you enjoyed this video and want to help me create stuff, please join our Discord. Come talk to us. I'm not super active as of right now because I got a lot going on in life. I have a full-time job. I'm doing this. I'm running 2 campaigns. I'm a part of 2 other campaigns. So I'm like, there's a lot going on in my life. So any help is absolutely wonderful. So yes, that's enough talking for me today. I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to stop it here. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope to see you in the next episode. So yeah, toodaloo.